real quick, this is my alt channel, and my main channel is in danger every day of getting banned as a result of talking with these amazing people very candidly. So please do me a favor and subscribe down below. Helps me out a lot. Get the hell on it, doggone it. Why do people get Jesus-y?
I don't know.
It's so lame.
My aunt got kind of Jesus-y, but she survived 2 burst aneurysms and had one
Makes sense.
more that got coiled. So that one I kind of understand. And she's not annoying Jesus-y. She just, prays now and stuff. So that's cool. But other than that, I don't know. Drug addictions and stuff.
I don't look, dude, I have no problem with religious people at all.
No, me neither. Especially as long as they're cool and that's just what they
Yeah.
believe in. I'm like,
I don't give a
yeah,
fuck.
I think it's nice that they have something to believe in.
I'm totally, yeah, I think it's great. And I don't see myself any better or worse than anybody else. But I can't stand people that, even though they know that you're secular, they continue to use phrases in conversation and like in the form that they assume that you're like a Christian or something. Like one of my friends was like, invited us like to a thing, and so I get invited to this thing and I'm like, yeah, I can't, I don't know if I could do that. And the person was like, it's like, what is the occasion? And the person was like, oh, we're just we're all gonna get together and sit around and talk and just celebrate the fact that Jesus blessed our life with so much love and we're gonna celebrate him in Christ. And I'm just like, why are you texting me this?
Yeah, that's too much for me. I'm like, if you would have,
Gonna
that's
prevent me
cool.
from coming.
Yeah,
You're gonna
exactly.
prevent me
Same.
from coming doing this. Like, I don't mind, like, that's what you do, it's
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
But when you include certain like phrases and sentences in a conversation, including me, like, what I'm saying? That's like that's no different than a Christian inviting his friend, like that's Middle Eastern, being like, hey, you should come to this thing this weekend. It's like, oh, okay, what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, we're celebrating the life of Jesus and how he blessed us and all of our family with like love and joy. The Islamic guy would be like,
Why
no,
would
I'm
I
not gonna
come
tell,
to
what are you talking about?
that?
Like,
Or
you do realize I'm not part of this, right?
or like having that'd be like me inviting a Muslim to one of my family's barbecues where we emu a giant pig and being like, "Hey, you
Yeah,
hungry?
yeah.
Come
It's
on in."
it's weird. It's weird. So no, but Sean says it sounds cultish. Yeah, so
So
um
I'm with Sean on both of those things. 100. I like
sure,
this Sean guy. If religion makes you a good person, cool, but don't use it as a veil for your shittiness. That's 1,000% how I
sure,
feel. And
sure.
then also, yeah, it sounds cultish. It's too culty for me. Like it's 100%. I've gone to church and I'm like, this feels weird and it doesn't make
Right.
me feel good.
Dude, I'm right there with you. So but everybody that's like living in their religion, which is, again, disclaimer, people like hear this and get pissed immediately. But people that are like parts of whatever religion or denomination, they always assume that everything else is culty and theirs is not. And then
Right.
all you have to do is hear somebody talk. And now look, I'll give you an example. I was at Anna's wedding, that Star Wars girl,
Yeah.
and it was a Catholic wedding, and nothing against any of this kind of stuff, but that was apart from like screaming Christian pastors that are like screaming in your face and spitting in your face. Apart from maybe that, it was easily the most culty thing I've ever been to in my life.
Really?
There was like all this different procedures that was completely off the wall. Now, look, I've never been to a Catholic anything, so it was my first time there, and it's just like stuff would happen, and then like somebody brings over like a chalice, and then all of a sudden this guy just comes out of the shadows, and he's like Jesus put blah 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 on our head, like badly singing, and and then like he would stop, and then the whole crowd of people would be like blessed in his spirit under his eye, like all perfectly in unison, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
That sounds really scary.
Like everybody, there was like the lady beside me was just like reciting like with everybody the same like ending pieces to different things, and I was like, how do they know this by heart? And it was so straight. And then the preacher would randomly say just a phrase. He'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And then everybody's like under his feet, above his eyes. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I gotta leave. This is fucking crazy. Like this. And then I'm like, do you not like, do you not see how this is like the most culty thing that's ever existed?
It's hard when
Like,
you're raised in it, I think, is the thing. Like, my dad didn't raise me with any religion because he wanted me to decide for myself. He's like, if that's something she's going to find, I want her to find it on her own. And I did have a cousin that was super religious. And I did go to church a few times, and I sat there and I listened to it, and I talked to him about it, and I was kind of like, yeah, I don't buy it. And this feels very culty, and I don't like this. This doesn't make me feel good. This makes you feel good. Okay.
I don't know why they didn't.
It's not for me.
I don't know why they didn't write better lyrics and flow for the music and Catholic stuff.
When was it written?
Fuck, a long time ago, probably.
It's a long time ago. It's been through so many different translations, but also there's so many different versions of the Bible, right? There's the King James Bible, there's the New Testament, there's the Old Testament. Like there's all kinds of. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Goes with what is the other thing?
It was just that was the first time that I was like, wow, this feels really culty. And I was, I'm 34 at this point, but
no, you're only 6 years younger than me.
I felt like it would have been cooler, like a little bit better if it was like the music and stuff was written better, and it was because it was very strange. Now, granted, Cecil told me it's completely in a different language originally, and they just completely one-to-one translated over into English. It's Latin, yeah. There you go. So, and so it was very, very weird. Where it's just the priest would just be talking normally. He's like, we joined together these two bodies of blah 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 blah, and like he just out of nowhere he's like, we walk hand in hand, we under the. And I'm just like, what the fuck? No.
Yeah, no. Anything where you're chanting and drinking the body and blood of someone else, I'm like, this is a little what?
It was strange. Now, granted, I've been going to, when I was a teenager and a kid, I went to church, all the time. That's what I did, and because I live in Alabama, and it was just sermons. It was a preacher just preached. Sometimes they'd scream, sometimes they wouldn't, and I didn't really ever like that either. But it was still more like they just had sermons prepared and would speak the sermon and then you left.
It's always, I feel like it's kind of cool if they're just trying to like teach a good lesson about how to treat human beings. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, like treating your fellow neighbors and this and that. Sometimes if there's a nice message that comes from it, but I still very much maintain that you shouldn't need it to be a good person.
Sure.
And also I think that if it's something that, and this is where it's organized religion that gets to me. It's not having something to believe in. I think that actually in itself is really good.
Yeah.
I think having something to believe in is good. It's probably very comforting in life. I think it's a very nice thing. It's the organized part of it where it's used for power, corruption, manipulation. It's just to cause wars in the name of religion, but really it's for something else. They use it. It's that kind of stuff where I'm just like, do we need that? I don't think we need that.
William, I love you. Appreciate you. Good night, my friend. So a really good point, because I've always thought, and Disparu put it to me like best, but I always thought that there's really not really a point. People should just be good, like you were saying. But Disparu was like, well, it doesn't really matter what you believe. If you're brought up in America, you were brought up in a Christian society, and subconsciously.
Yeah, he was saying that, and I'm not sure I buy it, to be honest with you.
It's all every moral and like fabric of like.
But not really, because even if religion doesn't exist before religion existed, a lot of these morals still existed. I don't think you need a lot of them to have morals.
A lot of them existed.
Like we all know what's good and bad. Well, the thing about religious that I find funny is it didn't shape morals. I don't think. I know what he's saying, and I'm not sure I agree with that, because the thing with religion is, and most of religions is, you can still do those things as long as you repent, you will be forgiven. So what is it really teaching you?
No, yeah, and I mean, I kind of see, I see both sides of it, because why is it that the Middle East and Africa are some of the most dangerous places you can go, and it's just the way of life there, but it also just happens to be almost one centralized religion, and that's Islam.
Right.
But in Western countries, it's like hyper Christian, and no one's sawing your head off in the street in Alabama.
Not anymore.
What do you mean not anymore? There
People
was no
used
head
to get
sawing off
people
of.
used to get stoned in the name of religion
Sure,
100% because
sure,
they
but
were gay or and look,
sure.
this is
Not in
extremism.
Alabama.
Not in Alabama. No, not in
That
Alabama.
still
But
happens
my
in the Middle
point
East.
is, I don't think that without religion there wouldn't be morals and human decency. And I think the reason for that is because humans are either, and this is across the board. Some people are, but it's not so black and white though, right? Like some people are going to be shitty regardless of whether they're religious or not. I know people who
Sure.
aren't religious who are wonderful people, and I know people who are super religious who are complete garbage people and just absolutely suck. But I think that that's just kind of the point of it. Some people are going to be good and have morals. Like, yes, we know murder and grape is bad. Obviously, I don't think you need religion to tell you that, because also religion said that you could grape your wives because they're your wives. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that religion plays into morals as much as people think it does.
I'm not saying it's entirely at play. I'm saying there's an unequivocal effect that like it reverberates through the last couple of centuries here. Whereas
Sure.
grapes not looked down upon in the Middle East, not as much.
It is
obviously.
not. It is not.
But it is here, and there's certain things. Stoning, like you said, stoning women for adultery or something, that still happens in the Middle East now.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't happen here.
True.
So I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it is. I do think it's hard for me to. It's one of those things where when people ask me like why I am not religious or specifically a Christian, I'm in Alabama, so it's only going to be Christian.
It has to happen there for you, right? Yeah.
It's going to be Christianity, right? And they'll be like, "What? Like, I just don't see how you could not believe in something." And I'm like, "Well," they're like, "Wouldn't you just kill people if you didn't?" I'm like, "That's not how that works." But I just tell them that you don't believe in 3,199 religions.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in 3,200 of them. I believe in one less than you. You know, that's it. Because everybody thinks they're like right. You know,
that's the thing. Everybody thinks that, and they're very, very sure that their religion is the correct one. For me, it's not even that I think it's 100% wrong. I just don't know, and I think that realistically, anything that we could actually fathom in our brains is not what it is at all. If something like that, if there is a higher power, if it does exist, I don't think it's anything that we could wrap our minds around in the slightest. And I certainly don't think it has anything to do with any of the organized religions.
And I don't like the only fallback question to disprove a secularism. It's the same question that everybody asking. It's like, oh well, how did something come from nothing? And I'm like, just because we don't understand it now doesn't automatically mean that your Middle Eastern religion is correct.
Right. And also, how did something come from nothing? How did the God exist? Where did they come from? Like, you could ask that question back and back and back.
I think it's really hard to be able to fathom, especially
it's hard to be able to
pre-time, very, very hard to fathom.